Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and you've come to video number 5. This will be the final square, but not the final video. We'll have 1 or 2 videos yet to go to show you how to construct this, and one to show you how to do the finishing touches. But I'm going to show you that I'm using green. This is using Red Heart Super Saver, and the color is Hunter Green for the next square, which I think is going to be appropriate. And just also wanted to show you there's a really cute pattern on a lot of these Red Heart labels. It's easy to do. It's using post stitches. And I'm a proud mama bear to tell you that my daughter Becky Barker designed this hat, and it just makes me really happy to see her design on the Red Heart Super Saver labels. Well, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do, also just a hook reminder, we're going to still use the same size J or 10 or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook for most of the work on this, and for the perimeter rounds we're going to go to a size I or 9 or 5.500 millimeters. Okay, this next square is going to be one of my, actually it's my favorite. Go ahead and start with this slip knot, and just like the other squares we've done, go ahead and crochet 46 stitches. Okay, now that I have my 46 stitches, row 1 is going to be the same as all the others. We're going to half double crochet in the 1 to the 3rd stitch from the hook, and then each stitch or each chain across. So go ahead and half double crochet all the way across. Remember, we're not counting the chain 2 as a stitch in the stitch count, but you should have 44 half double crochets once you finish this row. Okay, at the end of my first row, I'm going to go ahead and chain 2, and we're going to start row 2. We're going to work half double crochets in the first 2 stitches. Now we're going to begin what I like to call the Celtic weave. This is a stitch I came up with my daughter's encouragement back in 2009, and it was first published back then in my Aran Afghan's Leisure Arts leaflet. And I know some of you may already have that. It's still there's still some copies around. It is also available in a download electronically should you be interested. You can find that on my website as well as Amazon and at leisurearts.com. Okay, so for just to begin this stitch, we're going to skip the first 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Some people find this stitch very challenging, so if you don't get it right the first time, don't worry, you're not alone. But I think if you stick with it, give it the old high school try, I think you can accomplish this stitch. Okay, now after we do the first 2 front post treble, we're going to front post treble in the 2 skip stitches. This is actually exactly like the row that we did for the 4 post stitch, the 4 post cable way back on square number 1. Okay, so we're going to do this all the way across the row. Skip 2, front post in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of the last 2 stitches just made, front post treble in the 2 skip stitches. I'll do it one more time. Skip 2, front post treble in the next 2 stitches. I hope you can see this yarn. I know it's a little on the dark side. Okay, working in front of the last 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 skip stitches. So go ahead and work this all the way across the row. It should look like this. At the end of this row, we're going to work half double crochets in the last 2 stitches, which are half double crochets. Okay, just like that. Now we're going to turn with the back side facing, and just like in the square number 4, the even numbered rows will have the front side facing. Okay, now we're going to work an odd number row. This is going to be row number 3. We're going to start with half double crochets in the first 2 stitches. And then we're going to do something a little different. We're going to start by working a back post treble crochet in the first 2 stitches that, you know, start off the Celtic weave portion. Okay, this is after we've worked our half double crochets. And I'll explain how these 2 stitches work later on. And this is where this stitch really differs a lot from the braided cable. Okay, so after we do the first 2 stitches, we do back post trebles. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to back post treble in the next 2 stitches. And these are the 2 stitches that are going to be leaning. Okay, so go ahead and work back post treble in those 2 stitches. Okay, now the next part that I'm going to show you is the part I think that confuses everybody. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work a front post treble in front of these 2 as seen from the front side. Okay, so the hook's going to go in front of these stitches as seen from the back side, and we're going to back post treble around these 2 stitches. Now these stitches are kind of buried down here, so you're going to have to use your Mr. Tallman and Thumbkin to kind of dig them out. I'm going to flip the yarn or the piece around backwards so that you can see where I'm grabbing those. And then we just complete the back post treble. And here's the other stitch. I'll show this to you a couple of times to try to give you a couple of good angles so that you know what you're doing. After you do that, we skip the next two stitches here, and we back post treble in the 2 that are leaning. Okay, or the 2 that actually cross in the front of the previous row. Now working in front of these as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble around these 2. So what you may want to do is just hold on to these. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. This is one of those things that are better felt with the hook than seen. And here's the other stitch. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Skip the next 2 stitches, and we back post treble around the 2 that are leaning. These were the ones that crossed in the front, the previous row. And to get the next 2 stitches, let's go ahead, and you can feel these, so go ahead and touch these with your thumb. Okay, and then you can put your hook right onto where your thumb is to get that first stitch. Hopefully that will be helpful information. It's one of those stitches where it's really best to, you know, sit beside a friend and learn it. And I really wish I could invite you all over and do just that. But some of you will have a hard time with this. Some of you will pick it up right away. Again, I apologize. Go ahead and skip the next 2. And remember the 2 stitches that are leaning. Those are the 2 that you're going to back post treble around. I wanted to give you a strategy. If you find that this stitch is just too impossible and frustrating, you have the option of making more squares of, you know, the other cabling choices that we've already learned in lieu of doing these the Celtic weave. But I really hope you can persist and try to learn this. So after we work those 2 that were leaning, we're going to go back and we're going to work in front of those as seen from the front side, and we're going to work our back post treble around these 2. So I'm going to go ahead, put my thumb there, and then push that up on the other side so I can feel that hook touching my thumb, so that tells me that I have the right stitch. And then do the next one the same way. Okay? This is another one of those things, once you get the muscle memory down, you really can do it in the dark. I mean, it's just as easy as that once you get past the learning curve. And I totally understand that some things in life just have a you know, a bigger learning curve, and I think this is one of those stitches, but once you get it, I think you'll love it. Let me go ahead and show you the way it looks from the other side. And the more rows we get, I think the nicer this looks. And the first stitches that we did, remember, we just didn't skip anything. We just did the first 2 stitches with back post treble crochets. What's going to happen is this is going to actually curve around and go this direction and be woven in as the rows go by. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and I will show you the last 2 stitches. I wanted to show you the last 4 stitches of the row. This is right after we've worked another of the crossing of the cables back there. We are just going to, for the last 2 stitches of the Celtic weave, we don't skip anything. We just work the next 2 stitches with back post treble crochets. This is almost like the 5th and 6th stitch of the braided cable, if you remember that. We don't skip anything. We just work those last 2 treble back post trebles. And then the last 2 stitches of the row, we go back to working our 2 half double crochets. Let's go ahead and take a look at the row. Okay, this is after 3 rows, 2 rows of which are Celtic weave. All right, we're going to go ahead now. Working row 4 and 5 is simply going to be a repeat of rows 2 and 3. I'll go ahead and lead you through those 2 because this is probably the first time some of you have seen this stitch. Okay, we're working the 2 half double crochets. Remember, these are not necessarily part of the Celtic weave stitch. These are just a way to border and feature this cabling a little bit more in the square. Okay, we're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those last 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And we're going to do this all the way across to the last 2 stitches. So we're going to skip the next 2, which are these 2 stitches, and then we're going to front post treble in the stitches that are leaning. You should see them kind of leaning. These are the stitches that are crossing in the front from the last row we did. And then working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches down here. You may have to, again, we're using the Mr. Tallman and the thumbkin to find these stitches for us. You can feel them quite easily, a lot better than you can see them. Can't do that again. Skip the next 2 stitches. These are the stitches that are behind these 2 which cross, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these stitches we just finished, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches that are below that we just skipped. Okay, I'm going to do this all the way across. I just want to go ahead and show you what this should look like at this point. We work this all the way across to the last 2 stitches, and then we work our half double crochets working through the top loops. And this is what we have after rows 1 through 4. Okay, let's go ahead and work row 5, which is a repeat of row number 3. Remember, the even rows are going to have the front side facing, the odd rows are going to have the back side facing. Go ahead and work half double crochets in those first 2 stitches. And to begin the Celtic weave with the back side facing, you always start by working 2 back post treble crochets. We don't skip anything with the back side facing to start. Okay, and after you do those 2 stitches, then we skip the next 2 stitches, which are right here, and then we work back post treble crochets in the next 2. Remember, these are the ones that are going to be leaning. They're the ones that crossed in the front in the previous row. Working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble in these 2 stitches. So go ahead, get those with your thumb, and then you can feel the hook touching your thumb. That way you know you have the right stitch. And then do the next one. And we do that all the way across. Skip the next 2. We're going to back post double crochet in the next 2. These are the 2 that crossed in the front in the previous row. Working in front of these 2 as seen from the front side, we're going to back post treble crochet in these 2 stitches. Go ahead and grab those with your thumb and bring it around, and I'm feeling the hook touch my thumb so it goes around the stitch. And do that one for the next one as well. Okay, so we're going to do this all the way across the row, and let's just take a peek at the front side. The front should look something like this. Okay, if you're getting something completely different, you may have to take it out and try again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete this row. After working this all the way across to the last 4 stitches, remember the next 2 stitches of the Celtic weave, we don't skip anything. We go ahead and work those last 2 with the back post treble crochet, and then the next 2 stitches, or the last 2 stitches, are half post double crochet. It's just worked right through the top loops. Okay, let's go ahead and turn. Okay, this is what we should have after 5 rows of the Celtic weave. So at this point, we are simply going to be repeating rows 2 and 3. Remember, rows 4 and 5 were repeats of rows 2 and 3. So go ahead and repeat row 2 and 3 until you have approximately 19 rows, and that's including this first foundation row. So go ahead and work this until you have 19 rows total. And again, the easiest way to count the rows is just to count the rows of half double crochet at the edge. That's just a lot easier than trying to count it with the cabling. So go ahead and do that. Okay, after completing 20 rows, this is the way your square should look with the Celtic weave stitch. This is the front side, and I'll show you the back side, which looks very different. It's very clear, should be very clear which is the front side when you work this stitch. Okay, after working 20 rows, let me show you row 21. This is the row that's going to discontinue the Celtic weave. I'm going to turn, and you should be working this with the back side facing. Chain 2 and half double crochet in the first 2 stitches, and then we are going to work back post double crochets in each stitch across. Okay, this is the same as many other rows we've done with the other squares. So go ahead and make sure that you're careful to get all the stitches as you go. You can work these Celtic weave crosses, as I sometimes call them. There are groups of 4. So make sure that when you go across these Celtic weaves that you're catching, all 4 of the stitches and not skipping anything. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way across. Okay, the last 2 stitches of this row are going to be half double crochets worked by working in the top loops just like you've been doing all along. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so this is how that row should be after you've worked the row that's technically the row to discontinue the Celtic weave stitch. Now I need you to go change hooks again. We're going to go switch to our size I hook so we can work the perimeter round. Okay, with the front side facing, go ahead and give that a chain 1, and we are going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. And just as a reminder, your stitch count should be 44 single crochets from corner to corner. After working your 44 stitches all the way across, go ahead and chain 2, turn 90 degrees, and starting in the same place that we made our other single crochet, go ahead and put your first single crochet there, and we're going to work 44 stitches evenly along these ends. So that's going to average about two single crochets per row end, and you're going to need to add in 2 extra on top of that along the route. Okay, so if that helps, I hope that helps to get, you know, that a little more even as you go. So just keep the number 44 all the way across. After working the 44 single crochets all the way across, evenly across the row ends, go ahead and turn 90 degrees, chain 2, and put that first single crochet across the foundation chain row right in the same place where you made the other single crochet. Okay, I'm going to skip the first one and then go right for the second one again, because the first one in the corner kind of acts as the one in that first stitch. And as I said before, this will keep the stitch count at 44 all the way across. If you have a hard time finding where to put your hook, look for where the stitch is from the foundation row and then stick it right in there, just the opposite, and that should be a quick and easy way to crochet over the remaining 2 strands of that foundation chain. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way across. Again, the stitch count will be 44 stitches. At the end, or after working across the foundation chain, trying to trouble with my strands here, go ahead and chain 2, turn 90 degrees, and work across the other side of the row ends. First single crochet being in the same place as the last single crochet of the last side, and then work 44 single crochets evenly all the way across until you get to the beginning of this foundation perimeter round. After working 44 stitches all the way across on that other edge, go ahead and give it a chain 2 and a slip stitch in the very first single crochet of this perimeter round, and go ahead and give it a chain and a tug. And we're going to give the yarn a trim. Make sure we leave a long strand, at least 4 or 5 inches long, so that you can hide that with a yarn needle later on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get the contrasting color for the next perimeter round. Okay, now that I have my contrasting color, I'm going to join in any of the chain 2 corners, join with a little slip stitch and give it a chain and single crochet in that chain 2 space. This is just like we've done all the others, and then single crochet in each stitch across. And notice that I am crocheting over this strand. I'm kind of keeping it towards the back so that it'd be one less strand that I have to hide when I put this all together. Okay, so go ahead and work this all the way to the corner with the contrasting color. Just for clarity, I'm going to show you the corner. Once you crochet in each single crochet all the way across, and then for the corner, you've seen this many times, but I'll just do it in case this is the first video you're watching on this series. You single crochet in the chain 2, turn 90 degrees, and then do another single crochet in the same place so that you're forming a corner. And then don't forget, this little single crochet here is a stitch to also crochet in, so go ahead and do that all the way across. Actually, go ahead and go all the way around the perimeter in the contrasting color, making sure you do the corners just like I showed you. Single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. So go ahead and do that all the way around. And just as a reminder, from end to end with the contrasting color, you now should have 46 single crochets in each side, or along each side. Okay, so that stitch count is now 46 because we've added 2 on each side since we're crocheting single crochets in the corners now. Okay, after working this all the way around, I work my last single crochet in the chain 2 space where I first joined, chain 2, and then a slip stitch in the top of the first single crochet that I made there. Go ahead and bring that yarn through, give it a chain, a tug, and go ahead and fasten off, leaving a decent size strand so that you can thread it into your sewing needle. Okay, and this is finished. So after I after you complete one, you need to do 3 more. So we need a total of 4 of these squares in the Celtic weave. I hope you enjoyed this. This is one of my favorite stitches. Next week, please tune in again, and we will start putting these together, organizing our squares, and crocheting them together. God bless. Bye-bye.